Hey guys, it's Splitty and today I'm gonna show you how to create a C# project in Xamarin Studio Community Edition. So the first thing you wanna do is create a new solution and then select the kind of project you wanna create. So there's probably library testing project, GTK is for GUI applications, console project, empty project, then there's some web development stuff, some other stuff, some Android stuff. Yeah, today we're gonna use GTK for GUI applications. Just gonna name the project, I don't know, just test. And let's create the project. Oh damn. Let's call it test 2. And wait till it's done. Not responding, awesome. Okay, so this looks like it works. Awesome. Okay, so there's the program.cs, that's the main entry point of the application, and the static void main is being called when the application starts. So let me quickly tell you what a class is. So classes are ways to store state. So if you want to have some state, you use a class. Let's call this person. Person is an object which should have some state associated with it. In this case, the state is probably, I don't know, the first name and and the last name, and maybe also the age. Then you have a constructor which looks like this. This one takes no arguments at the moment, so it looks like this public person. This is the constructor. And then you just assign stuff to these variables. By the way, sorry if my keyboard is really loud. I got a new mechanical keyboard and it's kind of noisy, but I love it. It's really cool. Okay, so you wanna probably wanna have some arguments here, like first name, string last name, integer age. Then you're gonna do something like this: first name equals first name. So we are setting the state of the class here equal to the parameter. We're gonna do the same for last name. Oh god, I really need to get used to this new keyboard. Okay, and you notice that I can't do the same for age because I can't assign age to age, which makes sense. It doesn't know whether to assign it to this or this one. So we're gonna use this.age equals age. So now the compiler knows that this.age is actually this age, and the age behind the thing sorry, is this one. Okay, so now you have some state and you can store some state, and you're probably going to retrieve the state sometime. So let's create a getter. It works like this: string first name, okay, so this is a getter in C#6 style. This basically means we have a public property called first name, and it retrieves our internal first name variable. Let's quickly do the same for second name and for age. Sorry, last name and age. So for age we're gonna need to change the type to integer. By the way, a string is just a bunch of characters, so pretty much text. Okay, so this is the age. Now we got a working person. We can create a person here. So let's do this: person equals new person. So this is our class person. We pass the first name, so let's say Splitty in my case, and the last name, test, and the age, let's say 20. And then we can work with that. So let's see, person dot, as you can see, there is the age, the first name, and the last name. Those are the public properties of the class. So state and storing state and all that kind of stuff is kind of simple in C#. It's pretty much straightforward. And yeah, let's get into GUI programming. Maybe this is going way too fast if you're new to this stuff, but you're going to get used to it really fast. So this is our canvas, pretty much. It's our window. And let's switch to designer mode here. View, visual design. As you can see, there's this thing now where you can get all this fancy stuff like buttons and calendars and checkboxes and color buttons and combo boxes and all that stuff that you're gonna need in a GUI application. So what we're gonna need is probably a few entries and a few boxes. Oops, yeah, we're gonna need containers because this is GTK and GTK works with containers. So let's get started with a VBox. A VBox just has these little containers that are stacked vertically. And then we have the HBox inside of the VBox, which is just the same but horizontally. Let's have an entry box and a button and another entry box. I'm gonna need another container here. Okay, now actually not a button, just a label. Okay, so let's give this a name, LBL add, and now we're gonna access the properties of the label and set its text to plus. Okay, let's name this entry box just entry 1. Now we're getting another entry box. Let's call it entry 2. And oh yeah, let's have this button for calculating the result. So btn calculate. By the way, I'm really bad at explaining things, so if you have any questions, just comment under the video. Go. Okay, so this is our application that started. Let's see if it actually works. So it's building, it's now compiling our code. And yeah, as you can see, here is our application. We have our two boxes and our go button. We can probably make this a little bigger. Let's see. Yeah, like that. So now it's a little bigger, easier to click. Perfect. Okay, so let's get into the logic of the code. GTK uses signals instead of events, but a signal is basically an event in C#. So C# uses events for stuff, and events are basically things that get called when something happens. So we're having an event here for the go button, and the event is called clicked. So let's add the event. Yeah, like that. And it just created our event handler on btn calculate clicked. So let's switch to the source code. Here's our event handler. Okay, so let's get the text of our two entry boxes. So entry 1 dot text. Text is a property of the entry box, and txt2 equals entry 2 dot text. Yeah, so now we have the text. Let's check if those two inputs are actually integers. So if not integer dot try parse, it expects a string, so txt1 and the result. So we are gonna have an integer int txt1 result, and we're gonna use that as our out variable. Okay, so read this as if txt1 is not an integer, do the following. So we're gonna show a message box. Showing message boxes is incredibly complicated in GTK, and it just sucks. So we're not gonna bother with that, and just import system.windows.forms, so we can use the actual Windows message box. So let's do that. System.windows.forms.messageBox.show. Now we got the text. For the text, we're just gonna use txt1 is not an integer. Actually, we can interpolate this to something like this. Let's see how this works. txt1, perfect. So now it's gonna show a message box saying that what you entered is not an integer. And let's just do the same for txt2. So we're just gonna copy that. txt2 result. You could create a function for this, you know, code reuse and all that stuff. But since this is for beginners and it's probably already hard enough to understand, I'm just gonna do it like that without functions. By the way, what I forgot to say, I told you about state and classes. So this static means that you can exit it without actually creating a new instance of the class. So you could just do main class dot main, as you can see it's available, without you doing something like new main class dot main. As you can see, this doesn't even work. Yeah, so this is our static entry point. Okay, anyway, so now we verified that our two results, our two entries are actually integer. We should probably return from this. So returning is like just aborting the function execution, so it doesn't continue executing if the right conditions are not met. So oh god, my English, I'm really tired, by the way, so sorry for that too. Okay, so now we have our two numbers. Let's add them together. So let's do something like this. Sum equals txt1 result plus txt2 result. And now we can just show another message box containing the sum. So let's just do this. So toString just makes it so that this integer sum is interpreted as a character array, so as a bunch of characters, so it can be read by the message box. This should actually work. So let's try this. Hello and 2. Hello is not an integer. Okay, so if we do 1 and 2, we should get 3, and we actually do get 3. So yeah, this is how you connect these things and verify types and stuff like that. Okay, so what should we do now? Let me pause for a second and check. It actually looks like you can't pause in OBS Studio. Well, that's shitty. So let's see. Yes and no buttons with text pop-ups. I think we covered that already. So play an MP3 file if possible. That's actually possible. It's a little weird doing that in C#, but it works. So let's get back into our designer. Create a huge button. Just call it btn mp3 or btn play mp3 for clarity. Yeah, maybe give it a better description, better label. So in this case, play an mp3 file. Okay, let's connect with a click event. Go back to the source code. Let me get an mp3 file. Probably have something here. Let me see. Projects. Where are my projects? What the hell? Okay. Just check something. How did we call this? Test 2. Okay, let's get to bin debug folder. Got an mp3 file. Call it test. Okay, so how do we call an mp3 file? C# has this media player thing. I don't even know if it's wait, let me see. I usually don't work with audio, so this is a little weird for me. Okay. There is something like a media player. Just need to find out where. Okay, system.media. No, sound player, that sounds good. Var sound player equals new system.media.sound player. Sound location is the physical location, so let's just, it should be relative to the path of the application, so let's just specify test.mp3 here. I actually don't know if it can play mp3 files, but let's test it anyway. Sound player dot play. Yeah, I guess that's how we do it. So this probably doesn't work. Yep, it doesn't. Let's load this into Audacity. And yeah, just take the first, I don't know, first 30 seconds of it and export it as a WAV file, which should be playable by that thing. Yeah, libraries, documents, projects. test 2 bin debug test2.wave. Perfect. This should work theoretically. Still not sure though. Let's see. Yep. Yeah, so as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. If you want music, you create a sound player. If you want to check if something is an integer, try to pass it as an integer. if you want to get the text of something, called .text. So the .NET framework is nice. It's convenient and it's easy to use. So let me explain a little bit more about that entry point. What's happening here is I'm not using WinForms, which is pretty much the standard what most beginners learn first, but it's shitty. Like, honestly, it's shitty, don't use it. There's something newer called, let me see, WPF, I think. It's better, way better, but it's not cross-platform, it only works on Windows. And GTK Sharp works on Windows and Linux and Mac, so I'm going with that. So application.init just initializes all the stuff that a GTK application uses. Main window win equals new main window. So let me show you what that does. I've been using the var syntax, so var win equals new main window. That's called type inference. So var automatically detects what's on the right side. So if I create a new main window here, it's straightforward that this is actually supposed to be a main window, so it interpolates that. Some people like to use the that style that they always specify the types. I don't do that often. Sometimes if it improves clarity, but not often. So this creates a new main window, and main window is, if you didn't notice, the class that we worked with here. That class was created by Xamarin Studio when creating the project. So yeah, so win.show, simple, just shows the window, and application.run enters the application loop. So as soon as you call that, you're not gonna be able to execute any other code here. So let's test that using system.windows.forms. Let's show a message box. So let's show a message box with hello in it. Oh my god, I can't see anything, it's so dark in here. Yeah, so you're probably not gonna see this message box, but you're gonna see it as soon as I close the window, because that's when the execution of the actual application ends. Yeah. So it's a loop, the application.run method is a loop. It just shows the window and it handles all the input events and all that stuff until you close it, in which case execution continues, if there's something to execute, of course. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna show you some stuff about this, what I did here. So I used system.windows.forms.messagebox.show, and that's a whole lot of dots. It's ugly. So you can actually use this package. So C# uses namespaces for stuff. So namespace hello.world and class person actually is accessible like this. Oops, let me close this. So hello.world.person, and that's what we are doing here in the message box too. So it's all just namespaces. Using system is namespace. Using GTK is namespace that contains code. So let's use system.windows.forms. Now we can make this simpler. We can just use messagebox.show, but as you can see, this is there's an error here. So let's see what it is. Change application to system.net.mime.media type names.application. We're not gonna do that. Change application to GTK.application. We're gonna do that. That happened because system.windows.forms actually has a class called application, and GTK has a class called application, and we are importing both of them, so the compiler doesn't know which one to use. So we're gonna specify that by hand. We could also, what I did here, create an alias, so we could do this using wf equals system.windows.forms, and now we don't need this anymore, and we could just call it like this, wf.messagebox.show. That's good if you have really long namespaces and you want to import them still as its own namespace, so you can use it and don't have problems with other namespaces that have maybe classes with the same name. Let's verify that everything works as intended. 2 plus 4 equals 6, perfect. Plain mp3 file. Amazing. So yeah, this is our small test application. I'm gonna upload this to my GitHub and place the link to it in the description, so you can download this for yourself and compile it and play around with it. And I guess that's it for now. Yeah, see you in another video, hopefully. Bye.